Ready?
Sounds good.
What's going on, and welcome back to Kickin' With. My name is Zac Holcomb. This is episode 44. We got Chadwick Stokes with me tonight. How's it going, man?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Awesome. Dude,
Yeah.
so glad to have you on. Very excited. Sorry I had to cancel on the first go-around.
No
that
problem.
Monday
No
a few
problem.
weeks ago
Life
was,
is busy.
good golly. Today was like just like that, and I was like, can't do it now. I already pulled the one that I had, you know.
Well, it is
lifeline.
March 13th, so I get it.
Yeah. So, anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I originally got to know you walking up the ramp to, like, Wood Ducks games, I think, is definitely where, at least it's my earliest memories with you. So, how long have you been doing that?
Oh, gosh. I've been going into my fourth season.
Nice.
At the Wood Ducks.
Have you been with them since they came back then? Or, like, second year back? Or
second year back.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
And then I took 1 year off in between all that. So, this will be my fourth season coming up.
All right, sweet.
Yeah. Some wonderful people over there. Janelle, who's our operations boss, and she's always fantastic to work with. I've really got a chance to know Stan Sullivan. Mm-hmm. Great guy. He's been an usher of that stadium for 20-plus years.
Really? Nice.
Oh, yeah. I think this is going to be his last season, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
But Stan and I became good friends, and he actually is a Vietnam vet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's a veteran of the Vietnam War, and he's actually come to my classroom at Frank and given a couple of talks to the kids about his experience in Vietnam and bringing his perspective on those things, and that was really cool. So,
very cool.
You meet when you work somewhere like that, you really get to, start some community relationships.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely ties you in with, like, just there's so many people that go to the games, like, from different areas, and then, like, the people that are working them. Is usher, like, technically?
Usher. Yep.
Very cool.
And so that's all about customer service.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
your job's to look at someone and be like, hey, what's up?
Exactly. And to make sure everybody's getting seated at the right place, try to put out any fires that may come up.
Right.
Really just be a face of the Wood Ducks, and it's a great organization, a lot of good things going on. We're excited about the season coming up, and it's a really cool gig.
Yeah, I'm getting fired up for it too. Very excited. It's like
Absolutely.
my favorite thing to do during the week when they're here.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, like, what better thing to do if you don't go?
Can't beat harassing the opposing pitchers.
Yeah, exactly. And Wood Duck Mafia, third base side, if you're looking for a family, we are your family. Come on out. We would love to have you if you like to heckle, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, it's the most, in my opinion, one of the most underrated experiences of living in Kinston or in the nearby area. I mean, like, if you live within 20 minutes of that stadium, you can go catch a ball game for, like, if you do season tickets, like, $5 a game. I mean, like, it's a crazy deal.
It's a really easy deal, and you get a great experience. I mean, you're around. I mean, you get to see these guys who are, they're working their tails off. They're trying to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. And some of them will, some of them won't. But it's just a great experience. That's really a good value, I feel like, for the average person.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with, like, the big increases of everything else in life. The fact that the tickets, in my opinion, are still staying in the same, like, price range. I don't know what they did with them this year, but, like, it's still sub $10 for a single game ticket, like, most days of the week. I know your weekends are a little bit more, but anyhow, I think it's, like, one of the best deals in town.
Absolutely. I mean, to be able to support something that's right here in the community that brings people together, absolutely.
Yeah, like, family of four can come down to, like, Sugar Hill, crush a pizza together for, like, $25 with drinks, and then roll over there to the game and get in for, during the week, $25. I mean, buy, like, a bag of peanuts. I mean, you spent $50. You got dinner. You got a night at the ballpark for four people. It's a heck of it.
You can't beat it. You can't beat it. And you potentially to see some future professional ball players.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
usually,
as far as at the major league level.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. I'm going to hit it with the sponsors on this one, so I make sure I get them in this time.
Sounds good.
Usually I'm terrible about it. But two sponsors of the podcast. The first one is Big Bark Social. So Big Bark Social is a social media website creating branding company that can help you with, like, creating a Facebook account and making it pop, or doing, like, a Google business listing, something like that, or maybe doing some videography of your event, or a little commercial style type of thing. So that's Big Bark Social. And the other one is Additive America. Additive America would do plastic manufacturing, short-run production, and stuff like that. So from prototype to production, pretty much anything along those lines is kind of stuff that we do. We're big on 3D printing and CNC machining and injection molding and just making people parts so that they can get them from the United States and not from China.
Absolutely. Support here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty big on it. So we had last week we had a big open house, and we had like 80 to 100 people, man, rolled through here in like a 3-hour span, kind of checking out the business and seeing things. So that was really cool. Thank you to everyone that came out for that. we really appreciate it. So there you go. Got the sponsors out of the way. Remember to the
awesome. Gotta pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when it's that's what they were reminding me. They're like, well, you got to at least make sure you list them when you don't have other people paying you. So they'll know that you'll do it when they pay you. So it's funny. We got the ad board up on the up in the transom windows here at 300 Heritage. So if you're driving by, and especially at night, and you're stopping at North Street and North Heritage Street, make sure you look up in the window. You can check out. It's pretty cool. We got the Brian Hanks Show, Big Orange Containers. We got Farm Bureau Insurance with Heath Harrison. And we got the Keeping It Real podcast up there with Kristen Goyette. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, I love everything you're doing with this building. I mean, this is absolutely fantastic. Hopefully this trickles on to other buildings right here downtown. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I hope so, man. Like, Brandon's got his spot. There's a couple other ones we discussed over off of Queen and all that. So trying to put it together, man, just one by one. Everybody does a little piece, and then boom, you got a whole little town that looks a whole lot different than it did 10 or 15 years ago. So
it does. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I've heard the stories. I did you can go back on the Google Maps, and you can actually, the street view is like all still the old street view. Like they haven't rolled back through in a while. Yeah, for not living here at the time, it was actually like pretty cool. Yeah, you can still go back and check it out. They haven't even updated like the Mother Earth Brewery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like the original Google Street View. It's like still up. They haven't come back in the downtown.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I did not know that.
It's kind of cool.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
okay, I did not know that.
Yeah. So, yeah, full disclosure on this episode, we got Grant, my brother, up there moving a bunch of stuff around. So if you hear a bunch of beating and banging around in this one, I can't clip it out. That's what it is. It's just progress on the upstairs. We got our new address
progress
for the upstairs.
Is happening.
Yeah, hopefully we get our electric pulled this week, and then boom, we should be very close.
Absolutely.
Very close. Started this project in August of 2020, so it's almost
nothing like keep it moving. Yeah, absolutely. We want to see as many of these buildings. I mean, many of these historic buildings, I'll say, if we get them restored and refurbished, and with new businesses like yourself, and that would be great.
For sure. So you're touching on the history there a little bit. So you're a history teacher, is that correct?
Yeah, that's my day job. Okay. I teach 8th grade history at Frink and LaGrange, and that's been an opportunity of a lifetime. Some great people that are over there. I've had some amazing opportunities, and just been very, very fortunate to be in the position that I'm in.
Nice, for sure. So you do that, and then you had, just a few weeks ago, you had a reverse drawing for...
Yeah, so I serve currently as the president for the Lenoir County Historical Association. Awesome. And that organization's primary responsibility is preserving historic Harmony Hall right there on King Street. Okay. 109 King Street, yep.
Very cool. Tell me a little bit about that building. I know my brother's been over there. I think he went through it with you one time.
Yeah.
But I've not been in there, actually. I've heard the stories. And I know that you guys do the little, was it like the haunted?
Oh, paranormal investigation. Yeah. Sure. So it was built in the 18th century. Okay. And so it's considered Lenoir County's oldest home. And so there's a lot of coolness factors there. And that house has undergone so many changes that's kind of too hard to list right now. But I will tell you, as far as the paranormal investigation, it depends on what you believe. Yeah. That's a fundraiser that we've done for a couple of years where usually around Halloween weekend, we'll invite whoever wants to buy a ticket and come and conduct their own paranormal investigation. We're doing it again this year, but I'll just say that you'll have to buy a ticket to find out. It's really depending on what you believe and what your tools find out, but it's a really interesting place with a lot of history, with the People's family. There's just a lot of cool characters that have come through there, and our responsibility as an organization is to preserve that property, tell the stories of the people that were there, and continue that history education mission.
Okay, very cool. Was that at one time or at any time like a governor's residence or anything like that? I don't really know anything. I'm completely
Kinston has that connection to Richard Caswell. Uh-huh. And so who was when North Carolina became a state, from being a colony, Richard Caswell was the first governor. Mm-hmm. And so Richard Caswell has that connection to Kinston. However, whether or not he has a connection to that house, there's conflicting reports on that. Okay. And so that's one of the frustrating things about in history is it has to be based off of evidence. It has to be based off of primary sources. And sometimes historians, we don't always know, And so in that case, we have to kind of tell the public this is what we believe is the case, but we don't have all the physical evidence to tell us that. Okay. And so that's a key part in any stories that you come across is what does the evidence say? And that's where history and science kind of go together. But there's some conflicting reports on that, and so that's kind of what I'll have to say about that.
Gotcha. So the reverse drawing that you did a couple of weeks ago, how did that go? And what kind of is what's the point of that event? Is it a fundraising event?
Yeah. So
and then, obviously you're spreading the word of who you are and what you're doing and all those things all in conjunction in one big deal.
Well, as a nonprofit organization here, as any nonprofit knows, it's tough to, raise money to keep the doors open, to keep the lights on, and that's something that we have to do. We have different fundraisers throughout the year that we host, and the reverse drawing is one we just did a couple weeks back. Mm-hmm. And we actually did it right down the street at the Exchange. Yeah. Tanya Adams was phenomenal. She's always been a phenomenal supporter of us, and she let us use the Exchange that night, and we had a great turnout. Made a good bit of money.
Nice.
So we're very pleased with the turnout, and thank you to everyone that was there and supporting us. And I will say this: I'm a little bit biased, teaching history, but we have to preserve the history that we have. Mm-hmm. And I think too often we've seen times where our history has been torn down or the building was deemed unnecessary. But we have that here downtown Kinston, where we have the oldest home, and this building deserves our responsibility, deserves our attention in preserving it for future generations to enjoy. Mm-hmm. And we take that responsibility very seriously. We have a board of directors that oversees the operation of the organization, and So what caught me next is we actually have in April our Southern Brunch.
Nice. Okay.
Yep, Southern Brunch coming up in April. That's Sunday, April 16th. For those that have attended it before, we will have it back outside again in the backyard. And it's really a way to engage our members, engage our supporters in a fellowship outside with beautiful weather, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And, Eastern North Carolina. And it's a way of coming together and enjoying the history of the property. And,
That's very cool. So are those both annual events that you have?
Yep, we do. The next event I kind of want to make sure I mention was our naturalization ceremony. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we haven't had it for a few years because of COVID and the restrictions and everything. But in the past, we've had a naturalization ceremony there on the property every July 4th, where we would have there were people that were going to become new citizens of the United States actually have their swearing-in ceremony there on the property.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's become a really big deal, and we're got our fingers crossed. We're in the process of, bringing that back this year. Mm-hmm. And so if everything goes according to plan, we'll have that, and we couldn't be more excited about it.
Yeah, that's very cool. Mm-hmm. That's very cool.
Absolutely.
What other kinds of sites or things like that are you guys in charge of, or do you take care of, or is that the primary? I mean, I'm assuming that's the primary one. But
sure.
Are there others?
Well, the property, if you've never been over there, is actually bigger than you might think. There's the main house itself, which we know is as historic Harmony Hall. There's the gardens around it. There's the smokehouse, and then there's the one-room schoolhouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one-room schoolhouse is a little lesser-known building there on the property. That's a one-room schoolhouse. It's original, and it's a really neat thing to see if you've never seen it. I'm sure we've all read about just how schools were done in the 1800s and going into the early 1900s, that in a one-room schoolhouse, all the kids, regardless of age or grade level, were being taught in one room by one teacher. Yeah. And so, we have that. And I can't think of anywhere close by that you can see that.
Really? That's interesting.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
That's kind of wild. They're all over the place in Ohio, man.
Oh, really?
A lot of people actually, a lot of them have been converted into homes.
Okay.
So, there's you can, I'm not saying that they're everywhere. There's a bunch of them, but there's just in the county that we were from, I can think of 5 or 6
oh wow, okay.
one-room schoolhouses that were converted into a home, and the person lives there. This one particularly on the way we had the house we had before we moved down to here. On my way home, it was it was a 10-minute drive or something like that. Okay. And one of the houses, you go around the little bend, and it's a house.
It's right there.
It's right there, and they had they took their old school bell and put it out as a part of their mailbox structure, the old school bell and stuff. But
that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a frequent thing down there. But the weather, the houses I feel were built a little bit more to withstand the weather because they had winters and stuff like that.
I can see
so
that.
So you had a lot more brick and stone and things like that, and then they were insulating them. So I think, and then roofs were a little bit more heavier duty and stuff like that. Then I think that. Plus, I think the environment down here is just much more brutal on
Yeah, and it's much more rural. I mean, it's a more rural area.
Yeah,
in Eastern North Carolina.
Like the humidity and the heat and
Right.
the swelling and contracting.
Hurricanes.
Yeah, hurricanes, no doubt. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense, but it's very cool that there's one over there. What is it? Is it mostly stick or is it stone?
As far as these vinyl siding.
Oh, I was talking about the schoolhouse.
Oh, the schoolhouse. So it's got a brick support.
Gotcha.
And then it's wood.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, still pretty resilient then.
Oh yeah. We're very proud of that, to have that there, and anybody's welcome to come take a tour of it.
Nice.
Absolutely.
When are you able to come by and just take tours if you're just like on a whim? Is it generally on the weekends?
That's one of the things that's been it's been of a challenge. You've got the CSS News 2 here in town is open on Saturdays. You've got the CSS News Museum that's open, Tuesday through Saturday, I believe. And we are kind of undergoing some changes on that. We do have our current site manager there on Monday afternoons from 1 to 4 p.m.
Okay.
And so that's an option. We do also have, you can come by for a private reservation. So with that board of directors, if you were to email us or send us a message on our Facebook page, we could certainly get the house open for a visitation. Cool. And so one of our goals, long-term goals, is having the property open every Saturday, just like the other historic sites are.
Yeah, so you could like kind of hit them all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge. People are busy.
Volunteer position.
It's a volunteer position, so we're working on that. But we're always open to anyone that wants to be a docent, to be a tour guide of the property. We would certainly train you, and we would love to have that support if anybody out there is interested.
Very cool. Very cool.
Absolutely.
You got any students maybe lined up for that, or any? Have you mentioned that kind of?
Yeah.
I know your 8th graders not old enough to drive and set that stuff
right.
up.
That's one of the. Yeah, we. That's something.
And sisters, maybe.
We've actually started that with the CSS News 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have a couple of. I'm on the board of directors for them, and I have a couple of high school kids who, whenever I work their boat on one of those Saturdays, I bring them along with me, and that's a really awesome thing, because when you have kids, especially that crucial age, 13, 14, 15 years old, who 16, who have that same itch or interest in history, you want to nourish it. Oh, yeah. And you want to feed it. You want to encourage it, because that's what happened to me. I mean, I was very fortunate to have a set of parents who, I was 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, who took my older brother and myself to various historic sites in North Carolina and Virginia. And to Tryon Palace in New Bern, to Fort Macon at the beach, to Colonial Williamsburg, and that's what started it for me. And so hoping to do the same for the kids that I teach, and see what happens.
That's cool. Yeah, Fort Fisher is one of our coolest places to go. We just go to like jump on the 4x4.
Oh,
beach,
sure.
Which is amazing. I still I say this all the time. Like, I can't believe no one screwed that up for us all yet. Like the fact that to me, that is still the most mind blowing thing about moving down here. In Ohio, you can't do anything fun anymore because like some jerk kid went and ruined it. You know what I mean?
So that makes sense.
And I can't believe that with all the tourism and idiots that come down here.
Right.
It's like my
I can see that.
All my buddies senior year, they senior tripped to like Outer Banks. You know what I mean? They got a house
funny.
and they were a bunch of. I didn't make it with them, but like I can't believe no one's gone out and just like done donuts in the beach and then been like, that's it. No more cars can drive on the beach. Like, I think that's one of the coolest things. I hope they keep it like that at last.
Yeah, that would be great.
I hope people keep using their brains a little bit at least. But we haven't
smart choices.
Yeah, no doubt. Matt was telling us a little bit about that they're putting a whole new spot down there for like the historical portion that they were going to take down what they had and then rebuild or build up a whole new place down there. So I don't know when that's supposed to happen, but I got to go check out what's currently down there because we never stopped. We just kind of roll right through there and go.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Fort Macon?
Yeah,
Fort Macon.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a state park. That's phenomenal.
The whole fort and the fact that it's like still in that, obviously because they're taking care of it and preserving it. How long do you know how long they've been taking care of that so that it doesn't fall off?
I know I try to be careful here as far as the history, but I do know it was donated to the state at some point. But it's kind of interesting because I believe it was World War II that there were troops housed there.
Really?
It was either World War I or II. I believe it was World War II. So that factors into the history. I think it was becoming a state park. World War II happens. They kind of took it back away.
Yeah, hold on.
And after World War II, turned it back into a park.
Okay. That's very cool.
So it's got that, it's got the 19th century history plus the 20th century. It's been preserved so well.
Yeah. I can't believe like how nice it looks down in there and everything. I mean, it's very well kept. Very well kept.
Now I'll say this: can you imagine being there in the 1860s?
Good God.
I mean, you were on the edge of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no phones, there's no internet. I mean,
just hanging out.
Running water doesn't exist. There's telegrams, but I mean, it's just a different world.
Yeah, and a bunch of people that don't really speak that good English because it's like they got all that crazy slang out there.
Right,
know?
right.
So you're like,
and it's not developed like it is today.
No.
And so the cars don't exist.
There's no Ferris wheel.
Yeah, exactly. None of that stuff. No mini golf. No, I mean,
golf.
You are
no
on the edge
L's.
of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we all have to kind of remember, just like how busy our lives are now. Like, do we ever stop and appreciate all the conveniences, technology, and everything that we have, and kind of reflect upon the people that came before us, what they did not have?
No doubt. Yeah.
And so
I was actually this is nerdy history, but I was love this. You'll think this is really stupid. So I was watching I've been watching this A&E biography series on the WWE wrestlers.
Sure.
They're on like season 3 now.
Okay.
And I couldn't remember how much of it I didn't know, but I can't remember how much of it I do remember.
In middle school and high school, I would watch wrestling all the time. Oh yeah, late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, that was the best.
Yeah. Who was your wrestler?
Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Steve Austin, no question.
Did you have a top 3, or was it Stone Cold or die?
Stone Cold, definitely. The Rock. I mean, it was very popular. But I remember just like, especially 8th grade, 9th grade, just being on those Monday nights. I mean, you could watch WCW for like the first hour, and then Raw would come on at 9, and then you could go flip back and forth. Oh gosh, Monday nights was just. And then you had Monday Night Football too in the fall.
Yeah.
Monday nights were just prime time.
Yeah. It was on like what, WB and USA or WB and TNT? Yeah.
I think it was
Something
it was
like that.
WCW on TNT, and then it was Monday Night Raw on USA Network. USA Network, yeah. I mean, that was. I'm pretty sure the wrestling was like. I mean, that was the number 1 show on TV.
Yeah.
Back then.
For a good bit. Had the Attitude. That was like
Yeah,
post
the whole
Attitude
Attitude Era. Yeah, that was as big as it got.
I'm telling you, you gotta check out the series. It's awesome.
Okay.
It's on Hulu too. You can just search it up.
It's on AEW. It's an AEW.
Or A&E.
A&E. Okay, gotcha.
So A&E's the channel. It's called like A&E Biography WWE. I think what's so weird though, and what's so annoying is that you have all the old guys doing interviews and stuff, and then they're calling it. And then I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna join like WWE, and it was like hearing them not say WWF because that's what it was for its entirety when they were there. It's such a weird thing, but they can't even like show the old logo. Like there's so many things that were a part of that lawsuit back in the day. I don't know if you remember that or not, but
a little bit about that.
So I was really into it like 92, 93, 94, and I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
So I was born in 88, and I was like ridiculous Hulk Hogan fan.
That's
Plus
awesome.
Holcomb, pretty
Makes
close.
sense, yeah.
And I wrestled when I was in like kindergarten, 2nd and 3rd grade.
Hulkamania, man.
So
Hulkamania.
I loved it. I had the little smash pillow. So mine was
Ric Flair fan?
So I like Ric Flair.
Ric Flair.
He was
just
a little
pull up
like
those
classic.
those promos with him from the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, just the talent.
Amazing. And Roddy
Piper
with his like
yes.
talk show.
Yes.
So that stuff was a little bit before like what I remembered, and so like learning like that pure 80s stuff before like like 1990, 91, 92, I was like, it was Hulk Hogan and Michael Jordan for me. Like that was life.
Sure.
That was pretty much everything that I could. That's all I needed at that point in time. Maybe a little Zelda on the Nintendo.
Do you ever feel like maybe things were just like better in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, before we had cell phones for sure.
Right. I just, this is just I'm surprised you mentioned, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because cell phones, I mean, these cell phones, don't get me wrong, they provide a convenience and everything, but it's just like anything else. It's an addiction.
Yeah.
And it almost makes things too convenient. You don't have as much of imagination. It's just so many more things were just more organic and just better.
Yeah.
During that time, I feel like.
Yeah. It changes the way that I teach my kids because they're homeschooled.
Oh, sure.
It's like, well, yeah, you can kind of, we're like teaching them how to use the tools of today when they're doing their tests and their stuff like that. And, a lot of that is like, did you try to Google it? Like, it just sounds really terrible.
Right.
Because I came up like, while, I was in like junior high and they're like, there's this thing called Google. And eventually one day it'll be like the encyclopedia for everyone. And we were like, whatever, dude. We still go to the library and check out the books and stuff, which like, you know, I'm not saying you don't burn all the books now because we have the internet and stuff, because like obviously the internet can be changed to say whatever it wants to say all the time, but like unfortunately that's become a part of our like teaching our kids. Is like, they're like, what about, how do I do this and this and this and this? And I'm like, well, did you Google it? They're like, well, no. I'm like, well, look it up on YouTube. And they're like, they give you the look, and I'm like, listen, you wanted to learn how to play a ukulele, and you figured it out on the YouTube, and then you taught yourself how to do
you
it.
can learn anything.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, I think one of the responsibilities that is the adults and whatever that we have to teach these children is just filtering through.
Yeah.
Filtering through, you know, where that source of information is coming from. You know, is this fact?
Right.
Is this credible? You know, where is it coming from? And that's hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's hard, especially for kids who are used to, especially, you know, now are just used to like, hey, Alexa, what's this? Or hey, Siri, what's the answer to this? And it's very trivial, but what's the meaning there? Dig deeper. And that's what's really real thinking's going on.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So, but yeah, I mean, we're seeing that democratization of new skills that can be learned just from watching YouTube videos, which is cool. But in the sense, I don't know, some of the imagination's gone. Some of the, I don't know, curiosity, or I don't know.
Well, let me hit you with some. Well, first, I was saying all that to say, watching one of those episodes, it was the first Wrestlemania one. Wrestlemania 1 was like an episode. So usually they're doing like these episodes on like individual wrestlers. Right. But they did like the season finale of season 2 was Wrestlemania 1.
Was in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, with like Muhammad Ali and Mr. T and
Andre the Giant.
I don't know if Andre was in Wrestlemania 1.
He was, okay.
He was definitely in Wrestlemania 3 when he got slammed by Hulk.
Dude, you gotta check. He kind of helped him up there a little bit. I think.
He kind of like tippy-toed.
Yeah, he kind of like helped him.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
I'm telling you, you gotta check it out. It's really good. It's really fun. Like, and I've clipped over a couple of them because I'm like, I don't really care about those people. Or like Bella Twins, I was like, I don't even care about them. Skip. But some guys might be like, Bella Twins.
Is your one on Taker?
Yeah. It's a good one too.
He's got such a story.
The Mick Foley one is crazy.
Oh wow,
because he's nuts. So
have you ever been to any pay-per-views?
No, I've never actually been to one ever in my life. Gosh. I was at an actual wrestling tournament when I was 7 years old, and Ric Flair was there because his nephew was wrestling in the same tournament. That's about as close as I got. And he walked around with a robe on all day. It was
man, my buddy, one of my best buddies from college, Andrew, and I we drove down to Orlando. It's been, I can't remember exactly what year it was. A few years back, we went to Wrestlemania.
Nice.
At Orlando.
Yeah, awesome.
And we did the whole WrestleMania access the day before. So if you bought tickets to that, then you can meet some of the wrestlers one-on-one, sort of like a fan convention type thing. Yeah. And we met Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
If you remember him, we met Eric Bischoff. We met Summer, who I can't remember her full name, but she went to ECU.
Oh, okay.
And she was a wrestler during that time, and that was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
And then you were there. It was actually supposed to be Taker's like last match that night, but it wasn't. But I remember we got to the stadium. It was at the old football stadium in Orlando. We were there for 7-8 hours.
Really,
a lot of wrestling, but it was fun. Cool. It was a good time.
Yeah, because at that point, Taker was probably still undefeated in WrestleManias, and then they made him lose.
Yeah, I think that's right because he had
see all this stuff.
Yeah, he lost to what's his face? Oh man,
it was someone terrible.
Roman Reigns. He lost to Roman Reigns that night. That was a long match, but he lost to Roman. Yep.
Yeah, and he was cool with it.
Yeah, right. That was supposed to be the last one, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I watched Edge last night. That was a good one.
Oh yeah,
Edge was good. There was a Stone Cold one, which you would like.
Stone Cold, I mean, he just nailed it. I've watched that promo, that really just the Austin 316 promo.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I've probably watched that a million times.
So they have like some of that, like they show you some of the footage of like them trying to record promos and like starting like this one they showed.
Nobody can.
Degeneration X was really funny. Like it was a good episode, and it shows them like trying to do. They were making a spoof of the Bill Clinton. Monica Lewinsky from the like thing, and so they were doing like a spoof of that press conference, and they show him starting to record it, and he can't get it out because he's like, this is so funny. Yeah.
Oh man,
I love it, dude. It's great. My wife was watching it with me, and she's like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever watched. And then like last night, she was like, I really liked that Edge episode. That was really good, you know. And she's like, I remember him.
She's into it.
Yeah, well, he was in Vikings, so you know that was okay. We could watch that one. But usually she's like, this is dumb. But we were talking about the stuff like, what did people do growing up or living a life without the things that we take for granted now? And at that time for WrestleMania 1, Vince McMahon basically like put everything on the table. He invested everything into WrestleMania 1 being a hit, and they did CCTV events at the arenas that they had been touring around to. And so he actually sold a CCTV events at the different arenas where they had been before on that road trip leading up to WrestleMania. And then they sold tickets to people to just show up at an arena just to watch something on TV live, because you didn't have pay-per-view then. And they weren't putting it on cable for free. So they just put it out on, you either had to be in the Garden, or you if you were from Columbus, you could go to like wherever they had been in Columbus in the last 6 months or a year. They picked cities and they did like CCTV events where you could watch it like live.
I did not know that.
And that was like revolutionary.
That had to be in that time.
No one had ever done anything like that before.
Had
Pretty
to be
cool though.
Yeah, I'm
Very
sure.
ballsy too. Like, we're gonna do this thing where we're gonna do this fake fighting stuff.
But see, like
in New York,
when I hear that criticism, like I don't care.
It's still
exciting. It's about the entertainment value. It's about the stories. I mean, so what? It's fake.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's so funny if you can't watch it.
I
My wife's
mean,
like, why is that guy bleeding? I thought that was all fake. I was like, well, like when you're flying from like 27 feet in the air, you know, sometimes a boot catches you in the eyeball and you're bleeding.
One of my favorite matches was Foley and Taker. It's the famous one. I mean, everybody knows what that one is, but it's so classic when he tosses him off the cage twice or through.
He falls through the cage.
He falls through, and he should have been dead.
Yeah, they were like, whoops.
As I think he wasn't supposed to fall through.
No. He was just supposed to they thought it would just sag and stretch.
No, he went right
through that son of a gun. I was like, oh my gosh.
And in that call, JR was like, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's legendary. They've killed him or something like that. Yeah, it's classic.
Yep. It's good stuff. You have to check it out, dude.
Absolutely. Okay, I will. That's good. Really That's good.
It's good stuff. I finished season 2. The next one I got is the NWO, which...
Okay,
so
I remember that very well. The black and white, the black and red. Oh, yeah.
But anywho, my top 3, I think, was definitely Hulk.
Okay.
And then I think Macho Man was my second one, which some people would be like, that's kind of weird, but like Macho Man. I think he's hilarious. But, you know, he had like a lot of those things that you definitely... He was very like into that stuff, you know, looking back now that like, you really can't say things like that. He was one of those people, and I think he was like, his legacy is taking a shot because of like that, like how he treated women. He definitely got in trouble for that stuff in the long run.
I think
it's like
Macho Man, didn't he just, even like in a normal conversation, he still talked the same way?
He held it forever. Yeah, like pretty much.
He just didn't, that was his normal voice. Yeah. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yep. I don't know who my third would be. Andre the Giant for sure.
Gotcha.
So that's my 3.
Andre the Giant, yeah.
And, you know, Macho Man and Andre could probably be, they're like 2A, 2B. But I had that, like, game on Nintendo, and we'd play all the time, and those are, like, the 3 best characters. I mean, you didn't even, $1 Million Man.
See, we've seen, like, speaking of Nintendo, we've seen video games change so much. Dramatic.
I hated that game because I couldn't figure out the button combinations to lay down and pin, so I just have to be like...
Right. And, I don't know, maybe call me old school, I don't know. I just don't know if playing online is as great of a thing as the way we had it in the 80s and 90s, where you played with 3 or 4 of your buddies, like GoldenEye from the 64. Yes. You know, that's still my all-time favorite game. Nothing will ever touch that.
I agree.
But 3 or 4 of your buddies were right there in front of the TV set for hours.
Yeah. Play the same level over and over. Yeah. So we had like my mom got remarried right when I was like 12 or 13, and we had a Ford Excursion with the flip down thing, and we'd take the N64 and plug that thing in. That's awesome. And so I had like a 38-minute drive to school, and I played a whole season of baseball.
Oh wow!
On the way to school.
drive to
so
school.
it was just like on the way to school would be like a game. I had a 162 game season, and it was just like It was just one season that I dedicated to only the ride to and from school. And I had a different league that I played. You know, I had like a different save for when I was at the house, but I played a whole season of like.
You know, it's funny because
it's so stupid, but it's cool.
That's awesome. I've been seeing like my you know how like Facebook will like ARAM criticizing online. When you on Facebook, you will populate like, hey, have you checked out this page or whatever?
Yeah.
I've seen like it got suggested to me like check out this like old Nintendo page or old Sega page showing you like video game launches from the 90s.
Yeah.
And I was just reading I was watching and reading about this story about how the Sega Saturn. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They botched it completely.
Yeah, it was a mess.
They botched that completely, and Sega had done really well with the Genesis, but then came out with the Saturn, just went down.
They were too early.
Yeah, and I don't think they ever fully recovered.
No, I don't think they did anything after that.
Yeah, I think they no.
Who did the Dreamcast?
Dreamcast, but that didn't.
But that was
it.
That was like the Saturn 2.0 though.
Right.
And then PlayStation jumped over them and stomped them into the ground.
Yeah, Nintendo and became Nintendo and Sony, and then Microsoft came out of there.
I remember when those. I was in like 8th grade when the Xboxes and PS2s came out, and I was Sony or die because I had the original PlayStation, so I stuck with them.
Right. Yeah, I've always been. Yeah, I've been the same way with PlayStation. Yeah. Now Nintendo. I mean, who wasn't a fan of the Nintendo or Super Nintendo or 64?
Game Boys.
Yeah.
Hello. Killed it.
But when they came out with the Wii, I just didn't buy into it.
Yeah.
The Wii, I wasn't. I know. I'm probably one of the few. I just didn't buy into it.
Couldn't do the Wii bowling at all.
I got the direction they were going with it, but I just didn't think it was the best direction.
Yeah.
But then they came out with the Wii U, and I was like, But then when the Switch, oh, okay, this is actually really cool.
That changed the game.
Yeah, the Switch, they actually did a really good job. They had the hardware, like the way they designed it, like, oh, so it's mobile and I can play on TV. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the little tiny controllers. I mean, you feel like you're like, I'm gonna break this thing. And they're pretty. Yeah,
they're pretty good.
Stout stuff. I mean, like the joysticks are kind of weak, but.
And I think Nintendo kind of saw the direction things were heading was like Microsoft and Sony were going to like this really hardcore hardware programmer stuff, which is fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, Nintendo's kind of going a little bit different direction.
Yeah, they're staying like entry level consumer, but with a really premium,
family friendly for the most part. You know, and it's always been
affordable.
Yeah,
affordable. And that's where I feel like where they sucked on the Wii was like when they did. That was a good one, but sometimes I just speak in puns. But where I felt like they, I had another one just pop into my head too. Where I feel like they came up short with the Wii was the graphics were just terrible. Like the Wii bowling characters like didn't have legs, and they're just like.
Yeah, it was just
terrible.
Yeah,
it was such a poor. But then they come back with the Switch, and it's like it's almost like you realize it, like you kind of said, like the Wii was to learn how to make the Switch perfect, and then they took like a tablet and the Wii and put it all together.
Made it much better. Yeah, and more affordable too. Yeah,
it did come down in price. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of that. The GameCube was cool because it was like the games were so much cheaper than PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360 and all that too, which was cool.
Growing up in Ohio, did you ever I'm sure arcades?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
I grew up in the country, so like doing that.
Yeah. So there's a place in downtown Raleigh, Boxcar. Have you ever been there?
No, but I've heard all about it.
Boxcar is fantastic. Yeah. And I've discovered another place in Myrtle Beach. Yeah. And at the Myrtle Beach Mall, which is sadly deteriorating pretty quickly, but there's a business in there that actually has, it's two parts. One store, I guess they're just selling different video game related stuff. And the second part is actual arcade games. Now, when I say arcade games, we're going back to the 80s and early 90s. Like, there's Tron. There's all that stuff. Like there's a whole nostalgic element there for me. It's just awesome. Especially Tron. It's always been my favorite.
Yeah. I like spots like that. Like, I wish we're trying, Jesse's selling the old MG spot down there next to Alien Fizz.
Okay.
So if you're out there, an investor or someone that just doesn't really worry about making a ton of money but wants to do something really fun, put a cool little arcade.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. With the bar, and if you wanted to, that'd be a great spot. I mean, just
at least 2 pinball machines.
So if you ever have any doubt about that working, just visit Boxcar. There's 2 locations, and there was one in downtown Raleigh and one in Durham, I believe. And every time I've ever been there, it's slammed, packed. I mean, you cannot get in.
There's one in downtown Columbus called 16-Bit.
Okay.
And the same thing.
Oh, cool name.
Yeah, very cool name. And then like, I'm not sure if they have the serve yourself beer on tap or not, but like, you know what I'm talking about, where you can like, you walk over and you swipe your little card and you just like fill up whatever you want. You hit it on the thing and it fills it up and it charges you for like however much you took out of it.
Yeah, Greenville's got something like that.
Yeah. It's right by Stumpy's, the Axon place.
Exactly. It's a really cool place.
Something Emporium or something like that.
Yeah, you pour him. It's right. It's not fancy technology, but yeah, they just charge you by the ounces you pour.
Pretty cool concept.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So and again, it goes back to our discussion earlier about like, revitalizing, repurposing, buildings like this. I mean, it just takes a little bit of creativity, being a little bit imaginative, and having an entrepreneurial spirit. Yep. You can make it happen.
Yep, for sure. That's what we're pumping to, man, on these like the buildings that have good bones still, and an upstairs that you could set up into a living space, and that's what we're trying to position. That's the drum that we bang that's not in town, but
Sure.
more on LinkedIn and stuff. Is like, if you have a tech business or you're a small business and all you need is the UPS truck and an internet connection, why are you living in a major city unless you're trying to like just do that? But like, you can come out here, grab a little spot, and for what you would have in a 4-bedroom house, three to 4 bedroom house in Raleigh, you can literally buy a building in downtown and have your business downstairs, your residence upstairs, and be one of the few people to come in on the entry level.
You're not having the cost of living, expenses. I mean, you're talking, gosh.
You can go to a baseball game for $8.
Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Yeah, there's so much potential.
Yep.
So much potential.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Man. Love it around here. So, like, the opportunities and the potential for opportunity down here is
absolutely.
Crazy.
It's just tremendous.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
your money just goes so much farther. Like, being from Columbus, like, good God, I would have never been able to buy like a building on a corner of a thing. Like, it's just crazy how much more you can reach out and do, especially if you're a young person, like, where you're not sitting around with like a bunch of capital all the time to spend. You get a lot of bang for your buck here.
Yeah,
and people will help you because they're like, "Thank you, yes, come on in, let's do it."
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can stretch that dollar, and as a business owner, you definitely need to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, especially, and again, when you can preserve a piece of history and repurpose it, you've become a caretaker of the past. Whatever the stories were told there, you've kind of become a caretaker of that, as you should be.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we definitely feel that a little bit being here, man. Everybody's got a story to tell us about
sure.
or where they stopped in when they grew up, or who they used to come here with and stuff like that. So it's very cool. So we tell them we're still a hardware store. We just it's plastic, and hopefully you need 100 to 1,000 of them. We'd love to help you.
Yeah, these walls could talk, man. I mean, you were telling me earlier, going back to, what year did you say, 1880?
I think 1881
Wow.
is, for some reason, sticks out in my memory, and I might be incorrect there. I think Jan's got the most info on.
Wow.
On all.
So
have you seen that book she's got?
What's that?
Have you seen the book that Jan Parson has? It's a baby like this tall and this wide, and it flips open. It was like an old insurance adjuster's book for the whole downtown, and it's all like mapped and written out in pen or pencil. Like, like whenever a new building was put in, they would come out and like count how many pillars the warehouse had and how many skylights it had and what size they were and this and that. And it's very, very cool. It shows like all the old history before a lot of the buildings were torn down and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. I would love to see that.
Dude, you got to check it out.
I've actually, thanks to Mike Parker, he gave me a book that was given to them containing old newspapers of a Kinston paper from the 1920s.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, you've got to make sure that you're wearing gloves and everything when you touch this thing. But it's just crazy seeing what was going on, in Kinston and the United States and the world at that time. And just looking at some of the ads, like H Stadium, some of those ads, like you can take so much history just from those ads alone and learn so much. It's just awesome. Yeah. To give you some perspective, as far as 1880s, I mean, the Wright brothers hadn't flown the first plane yet. Yeah. At all. World War I has not happened yet. I mean, the Civil War had ended in 1865. Yeah. And so
electricity's not even really mainstream.
Now Main Street cars haven't been invented yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that really puts things in perspective with a building this old.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like. The thing that I like about it the most is like on the corners, it's got the bricks that are turned 45. Oh, yeah. And they alternate. And it's a really unique pattern that I definitely don't see in this town. But just to think of that, like this building was particularly built outside. So the city limits the original city limits were North Street was the city north limit, and that was that street. So this is like technically outside of city limits or initial city limits. And then it's got such ornate architecture, and it's done in like 1880, 1881, 1879, something like that. Like whoever like the Parrott family, I believe, is who built the spot because they owned this land. I was kind of earlier.
Makes sense.
They owned Mitchelltown before it was Mitchelltown, and Mitchell Street was called Parrott Avenue or Parrott Street at the time or something like that, I think. But it's just crazy, like in our mind, to think of like how much modern day money it took to build a building like this at that point in time. I mean, like you said, you're like 15 years out of the
Yeah, it's crazy.
People are plopping that kind of cash down for a building. It's crazy.
I've learned this recently the last couple of years. Like, I've got a couple of my own personal collection, but a couple of replica Sears Roebuck catalogs.
Oh, yeah.
And those are a treasure. I would love to get my hands on an original, but I've got a couple of replicas. And did you know this? I mean, I should have known this prior, but Sears back those days, you could buy a house through them.
Yeah, the whole house came in a
Yeah,
kit.
they would ship you the materials. And there's actually a few houses, I don't know the exact numbers, but there are some houses in Lenoir County that are still standing that were Sears Roebuck houses.
Yep.
And so they would ship you the materials along, down the train, and you put it together yourself.
Build your own house, baby. Yeah. It's like a catalog order.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to start.
That's crazy. Well, back then, though, like you said, like things that you grew up with that you don't grow up with now.
True.
Everyone back then knew how to like measure and stud up a wall by like 13.
True.
If you were a male, an able-bodied male by age 14 or 15, you could pretty much. I mean, you could shoe a horse. You could.
Right. You're able to do a lot of different things. Yeah, that's true.
Trades and skills, man. They never wear out. Still. I mean, and what's funny, I think, too, is like, this was something that you mentioned earlier that I thought was kind of interesting. You were talking about how you feel like creativity is curbed a little because of the current situation of technology to a degree.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, don't get me wrong, there's creativity within the digital media, digital realm. There is that creativity. However, how often, we don't have enough of picking up books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a physical book. We don't have enough of that. We don't have enough of kids playing outside.
Right. Yep.
You'll see this all the time where you have a older generation will say, my curfew was when the street light was out.
Right. Yep.
Well, the street light came on. I'm sorry, the street light came on. Like that, those things created the imagination. Like I remember when I was 10 years old, for example, an old house my parents used to have backed up to some woods, and I remember going out there all the time trying to build a tree house of some sort, or putting on different hats and imagining I was Davy Crockett, or trying to build river dams and little creeks out there, but just having a good time being in those woods, being out there, and just letting that imagination run wild, and that's where. That's part of the reason that we love history, but the stories and everything. And I think that's something that's missing, that's not as celebrated. It would be great if we could kind of get back to that. And instead of using these screens as, I don't know, these screens are a great tool, but that's what they are. They're not. We learned this with COVID. Like these screens are not going to replace a teacher.
Right. Exactly.
No.
Yep.
No. Technology is a tool, but it can be misused. It can be overused, just like anything else. And I know that. And speaking of being a great teacher, I remember very well when I was in grad school at ECU. My favorite class was in grad school, at least, was a class on the American Revolution. It was Thursday nights from 6 to 9 p.m. Taught by Dr. Wade Dudley. He's since passed, but. That class, the way he taught it, there was no frills. He taught out of one book called The Glorious Cause. I remember getting there. It was in the Brewster Building on 10th Street. I would get there at 5:15, 45 minutes before class started, and ate every minute up because he was such a captivating storyteller. His talent, his skill was just like, that's what I want to become eventually. And but it's that interpersonal storytelling. It's that in-person creativity, imagination that I think we as adults need to push for more of, and not letting these screens control kids, but letting them use it as a tool, but recognize there's an off switch.
Right. Yeah.
There's an off switch, and there should be a limited amount of time on it.
Yeah, not like that. Like you said, it's like a tool, man. It's just like everything else. You can't just stop and abandon everything else. We used to do that a lot in the 3D printing game, man. As people are like, it's either we don't need that or it's changing the world and it's going to kill all these other technologies. And it's like, no, it's just another, just keep adding it to the thing. I mean, we still use a lot of things. We still use electricity.
Right.
We still use phones. Yeah. I know they're not through a line, but we still use a phone. I mean, it's a lot of the things are very similar too. Like,
if you think about this,
like kill it all off all the time.
The more of these advancements in technologies that we've had, you would think it's supposed to make our lives easier and maybe work less.
Yeah.
but it really hasn't.
No, it makes it to where you can't be off work because
Right.
your email's in your phone.
Correct. I mean, because people expect, instant response, instant access, 24/7. And, wait a second, it's kind of counterintuitive with all these advancements in technology. Like, wait a second, where do we draw the line?
Yeah, I spend more hours connected to answering that thing when it buzzes, and
Sure.
and the purchase power overall is about the same or less. Wait a minute. Yeah, you're making more money, but are you making more per hour as you would have back in the day where it was like punch in, punch out?
Have you ever, I'm sure you do, you ever followed the entrepreneur, he's got a great podcast and everything, but Gary Vaynerchuk?
Oh, I love him, dude. Met him. Great guy.
And awesome, he just, it's just amazing perspective on so many things.
Yep.
And, his big thing is not money. His big thing is happiness.
Yep. Are you doing what you enjoy?
Right. Like, he's like, some people that he knows that make 45, 50, 55, 60K a year are the happiest people he knows.
Yep.
They're in 2 softball leagues, for example, or whatever. They've got time for their kids. And some of the people that he knows that make 200, 300, 400,000 up are some of the most unhappiest people he knows.
Miserable. Yep.
And so it really it kind of really brings things in perspective. Like, are you working to live or are you living to work?
Yep. Yep.
Or
like how long are you willing to take that? Are you squeezing the orange over here, but are you going to do it forever? And are you going to just be miserable in a job for the money forever? Or is it a stepping stone thing? Or is it
we've all got a finite amount of time.
Yeah.
And so I think.
Not purchasable.
Right. Right. It's non-transferable, can't return it. It's a very finite amount of time. And I think each of us should be finding something that's meaningful. As far as what we're doing with our time. And if you keep that perspective, you'll be more intentional about how you spend your time. And I've been very fortunate to be in the position that I am because I feel like we're all supposed to do something, we're all designed or with a specific purpose. And unfortunately, not all of us figured out what that is.
Yep.
And I feel like for me, I have. And I've been very fortunate for that. And I feel like, every day is a chance to deliver something that is meaningful because you never know, especially in a classroom environment, what you say or what you do is going to have that meaningful impact. You just never know who it might be and what they may hear and what clicks for them, and then they take it with them for the rest of their lives. But yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. On the creativity thing, it's kind of interesting too, to devil's advocate you just a touch.
Sure.
So this is just a thing that we've noticed in our industry a little bit is we have, with the 3D printing capabilities that are out there now where they can actually produce parts that can be used for end use parts and things like that. One of the things that we've encountered is the folks that have the more formal training background and stuff like that really struggle. They have very limited creativity when it comes to, all right, now with this new technology, there's less constraint on what you can do because you don't have to actually be able to get a drill bit in there to actually do it. So you can so that's kind of been an interesting thing in our industry is working with folks where sometimes it's the unformally trained people are able to pick it up and be more out there creative and come up with these different concepts that they are able to that are printable only. It's just that's just the only way to manufacture it. But I think a lot of it's kind of interesting too because it's they don't have a dude with 30 years of formal experience trying to teach him how to create really cool stuff for printing. Sometimes a kid with no education in it at all because they haven't been told no, you can't on this, that, and the other. They haven't been boxed in as much. It's kind of been an interesting. It's a weird thing though, but you would think But that guy's got all that experience. Now he can do all the things he's been told. No, his mind's kind of been just scratching those off as possibilities, limiting the creativity.
Well, I mean, Steve Jobs, we once talked about how the world kind of wants you to stay between these 2 walls, live a nice life and don't go outside these barriers or lanes or whatever.
Yeah, don't get uncomfortable.
Right, and he was very much against that, and I think that's what led to a lot of his success. But I think when you allow yourself to think differently, when you allow yourself to get out of the box and take a chance, it doesn't always work out. It doesn't,
for sure.
But that's okay. That's part of the process. When we allow ourselves to fail, you give yourself a chance to grow from it. And I can tell you from the classroom, not every decision I've made is correct. Not everything we've done is a great idea, but that's how you learn. You've got to take chances. You've got to, let that creativity come out. And I will tell you this, I feel like it's a good time to mention it, but one of the most proudest things I've been able to do as a teacher is build a space where kids are allowed to be creative. Kids are allowed to experience history in a way that maybe they haven't been done before. We've built a history lab. Nice. And schools to think science lab, but history focused. And it's a space to basically took kind of like this in a way, but took an old classroom that wasn't being used and converted it into a space where kids can actually be immersed and experience history and be creative. So, for example, just recently they had a chance to do some writing with a feather quill.
That's cool. Yeah.
So they're used to pens, they're used to pencils, but with a feather quill from the 18th century, they haven't used one of those before. No. So here they are, they're dipping in an ink, and you find out very quickly which ones can write cursive and which ones can. Yeah. And but they're practicing with that, and those kind of out of the box different things are what's hopefully are just going to make a lasting impact that they thought was interesting, that they thought was engaging, that they were like, well, wait a second, this is different.
Yeah, a little different spin.
Right. A little differences, a little meaningful, something as small as that will hopefully make a difference. I mean, another thing, when we, we've done so many things, and you're welcome to come out anytime and see it. But we have artifacts in there from different eras. One of my favorite things we have in there is a national cash register from 1924.
Oh, very cool, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So if you know what I'm talking about, those things, I've seen some in different antique stores. They're beautiful. Mine needs to be restored, but that is like your hook in teaching economics and personal finance. I mean, economics, you can teach so many things economics through that one artifact. I mean, kids, they know stores, they understand purchasing things, the cash register, and that's how you bring them in, but they've never seen one like that.
Right. Oh, yeah, totally.
Something, and that's the heaviest artifact that we have, because what you don't see is the cast iron that's on the inside, and it's, oh, gosh.
They're heavy suckers, dude.
Yes, it is. In fact, the table that's sitting on, I think I started to dip a little bit. Right. But,
Well, you get to hit on the Great Depression, the history of finance, government, budget. I mean, there's a zillion things you could touch on with that thing. It's cool.
Those people suffered.
I'm telling you.
Yes, I mean, you're trying to, especially during the Great Depression, I mean, 1 out of every 4 Americans was out of a job.
Yeah.
So
it's wild.
Yeah, that's 25% of the American population unemployed at that time. And, World War II is what got us out of it, and not anything else. But it was that, I mean, it's kind of an unfortunate reason, but it was that, okay, we're going to war. We have to have production. Anyway, so it was those workers, women going into factories to produce things. Yeah, that's what got us.
What happened to the population during that time in the U.S.? Was the population of the U.S. actually still growing during World War II because of immigration and stuff?
Without looking at any census records, that's a good question, actually. I would have to think so. Yeah, I would have. I mean, just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. But I mean, you see this, coming out of World War II, you see that huge boom.
Oh yeah.
You see that huge boom, the celebration coming after that.
Yep.
But there's a lot of different reasons why that generation is the greatest generation, why they've gotten that name. I mean, think about what they overcame. The Great Depression, overcame,
World
War II itself, and they overcame a lot.
They went to frickin' space.
Yeah, went to space, yep.
From the Great Depression to to the moon.
right. I kind of should have known that was coming. I should have known. Oh, man. That's funny. Oh, man. I had
to slide that in on you.
Oh, man. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know, dude. Like, it's very interesting to think about. But I don't have like a for sure. I don't lean one particular way.
Do you think there's so you would leave room for doubt?
I would say that like I wouldn't rule it out as a possibility.
Okay.
That it was just in a studio.
Okay.
Because I just don't. I
don't
know.
I understand.
I don't know. Like I guess if like maybe when they make it to where we can fly to the moon for vacation and we can go and see like the spot where they landed and we can see the tracks and stuff. If they're still there, then I should
still be there.
Right. I should be like, damn, they're like, why aren't there updated photos now of like where the landing was? And if they exist,
I've
never seen them, but you'd think that like instantly quell that. oh, okay, well, we can take this telescope and we can look at something like 6 million light years away, but you can't show me the tracks in the sand on the moon right there.
I will say this. It's very interesting what Elon Musk is going to be able to do with SpaceX. Yeah. Like, just in his time with that company, being able to build, like, rockets that can come back to Earth, like, remotely.
Yeah.
And land themselves and be reused. NASA couldn't do that.
Private sector, baby.
Right. I mean,
no
NASA
politics.
couldn't do that. And they had how many years of a head start?
Yeah, 60
plus. And Musk and his team of engineers did it in how many years? SpaceX? Not that many.
I don't know. I don't feel like I'm swaying you, but I feel like I'm asking some decent. Like, that's it. My whole thing is that on, like, and again, I'm not like drawing the lines of like what is and what isn't, but like that's a very simple way to put that to rest. Okay, well, here's a picture of it. Right. Is it on the backside? Well, let's send a freaking telescope up. Let's send something up there on a satellite and get a picture of where we landed. It should be there.
What
you think?
Do you think we'll see it in our lifetimes? As far as I know, we'll be back to the moon.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm pretty confident.
I'm surprised we haven't been yet.
Yeah.
Like, what are we waiting on? I'm surprised Elon hasn't done it just to be like, all right, cool.
Yeah, when I think space,
fun, or like land a Tesla.
When I think space now, I think Elon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
unless he just doesn't care about the moon at all, and he's so focused on Mars.
Yeah, he's thinking Mars. Yeah.
Which,
that would
pretty
cool.
Be fitting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, he could at least like slow land a Tesla on the moon and leave it there. Like, why wouldn't you?
I'm sure he would have to do that.
What would it cost? $2 billion? I mean, like,
he's got the money.
Yeah, why not?
He's got the money.
They launched that one into this.
Do you think NASA? Who do you think is really running the show there, Elon or NASA?
I think SpaceX is. Yeah,
SpaceX, his company. Yeah, SpaceX.
Elon. Yeah, they're the ones. They're the actual. I think they're the brain of it right now.
Yeah.
He's got all those private sector people, and he can pay him tons.
Yeah, it's
like
NASA's taking their directions from him. Yeah. SpaceX, they're giving the contracts for the money, but they're taking the direction from him. It's what it seems like.
I like that.
Yeah.
Why not? Got nothing to lose. Find out.
Right. I mean, to build those rockets that can land like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it took him how many years to do it, and NASA's done nothing anywhere close to that.
Yeah, they may as well just ride along, jump on.
Right, might as well. Nothing's been able to do.
And I don't know, I kind of like that too, because like his personality, I like him being the guy that does that, because people be like, oh, well, the guy's a jerk. But like, I don't fret about him giving that stuff up to other people, other countries that might use it for bad.
Right. He's an American. Yeah, I mean, he
cares about America. He's a throwback, man. Like.
Yeah, I feel like with him, like he's a Steve Jobs. He's a Walt Disney. He's that level. He's that thinking that different, pushing us forward in ways that we haven't seen in some time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like he's on that level for sure.
Yeah, he's a freak show. I think, and people just dislike him because he knows it. He's a little edgy. But like, how much would you pay attention to him if he wasn't saying things when things got slow and he didn't have any news that was making news?
I mean, Steve Jobs wasn't
kind of interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Jobs didn't have the nicest, I guess the reputation to be the nicest guy, but
yeah.
I mean, we use his. I mean, he also created the most profitable company ever.
Yeah, a smartphone, but as we know it, with apps.
Yeah, right. Just that whole
just the word, and we're not talking about 6 chicken wings or 12 chicken wings before your meal. Like, apps is a whole new thing that no one ever thought about.
How much do you know about Apple?
Not as much. I'm a non-Apple guy.
Non-Apple guy.
Is that why you think maybe I might think that the moon landing was fake too?
No, that's fine.
Samsung guy. I don't know if it was. Just
back in the 90s, I mean, when he was brought back as CEO, I mean, Apple was like 90 days from being insolvent.
Yep.
That's it.
That's crazy.
And if you just think about how much money you would have if you had purchased shares of their stock during the 90s, during that time, just say 100 shares.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
See it retired.
Oh yeah.
Just like
10 times over.
Even in 2005, like if I would have graduated high school in 2006, my dad would have been like, "Here's 10 shares of Apple."
You're set.
It's like at least $1 million now.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's crazy.
They were 90 days from being insolvent, and it's just like the greatest comeback story in American business.
Wasn't he fired initially?
Yeah.
So he got fired from the CEO position of his own company by the investors, and then got brought back.
It's a crazy story because he was, him and Steve Wozniak, created the company, and they had gotten big, and then Steve, I think, wanted to focus more on the product side of stuff, and so he brought in John Sculley. Mm-hmm. John Sculley, who was actually the CEO of Pepsi.
Oh, okay.
Which really cool North Carolina connection there, by the way, with Pepsi. But John Scully comes in as CEO, and I think for like the first year, their relationship was fine. But then they introduced the Lisa computer, they introduced the Macintosh, and they didn't sell that well, and so the board started to really question Jobs, and so Scully took basically, I guess, from what I understand, the board's side, and they voted to fire Jobs.
Gotcha.
And so then Jobs left, starting his own company called Next, and then in an incredible story going into the 90s, Apple had fallen on hard times, ends up buying Next and bringing it to use their software that they had created, and then brings Jobs back on as CEO.
So did he lose all of his ownership rights, or was he just such a minority ownership that when he was not the CEO that he just was a minority shareholder?
At which point?
When he got fired before he got brought back, when he started Next?
That's a good question. I'm sure he still had.
I just wonder how he was able to, like, go and do something. I don't know if there's, non-compete, California company.
Oh, right.
Existed.
As far as non-compete.
I don't know if they had I don't know how that all works.
I don't know either.
That'd be interesting.
It's a good question. Yeah.
Old non-competes.
Right.
Got to watch out for those.
Right. Do you have that in this industry, I'm sure?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In our industry, for sure. Non-competes are very big, except for the tech companies that are based out of California because they're illegal in California.
Gotcha.
So it's like, that was kind of like, there's a bubble activity there for a little while. You could get a real high-paying job in the 3D printing industry through companies in California or based in California at the time. And a lot of them would be remote or like traveling salespersons, things like that. And you could make some serious money working for those companies. But you know that you're only going to be there for 6 to 36 months because that's all the longer. And then they're going to transition to other people. And it's just kind of like one of those things. So you can go and you can make a lot really quickly. But, you know,
sure.
Either you're going to be amazing and you're going to rise up through the company and be like a top 10 person in the next 5 years, or like they're going to roll from you very quickly. So, but what's cool about it is you get a lot of bang for your buck, put it away because you know you're going to get fired eventually on some random sweep of clearing payroll or budget or something. And then, you know, you got 3 months till you find something else and get going. So just put your money away. But you don't have to sign a non-compete with those companies, whereas company based in North Carolina, Ohio, Texas, they're going to snag you up with that non-compete, make your life hell if you ever leave.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of annoying. Funny thing, we moved to North Carolina because I had a non-compete. I couldn't do 3D printing within a 50-mile radius of basically my hometown.
Oh, wow.
For 2 years.
Gotcha.
So that's what got us looking.
Right. What have you liked about North Carolina the most as far as the time that you've been here?
Definitely the weather and the cost of living. Those are like 1A and 1B. 2 or 3 would be like the people being pretty kind for the most part, which is cool. People being willing to help you do random stuff and like that. Like, so that's been pretty, I would say those are like the top 3 things.
Yeah, you'll find, I mean, you know, Southern hospitality has always been there, and so is the sense of community. You especially find that here in Kinston and Greenville and Winterville, where you've got people that are just willing to help.
Yep.
You know, they want to see, especially if they see what you're doing, you work hard, you know, you've got a good reputation, they're going to respect that and be willing to help you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, there's still like the backstabbiness and there's still like those things. But once you figure out that the local style of how those people kind of operate, you pick that, you're like, all right, cool, that's compartmentalized.
Gotcha.
These activities are the same as these activities from people where I come from, but the percentage of people out to screw you here seems much less.
Much lower. Well, that's good.
Than
That's
a major
good.
city. But it's a lot more competitive up there.
Gotcha.
And then, up there, it's like, where's your family from?
Gotcha.
It's a melting pot. You're moving there because it's like one of the fastest growth. So it's like your grandparents definitely aren't from Columbus.
Wow. Okay.
Where are they from? Well, my grandparents were originally here, then they've been in Columbus for 40 or 50 years. Like that was the usual because like Columbus wasn't that big in the 40s, 50s.
Gotcha.
But it exploded in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Still today, like now it's like the third fastest growing city in the country now.
Wow. Okay.
But or at least 5 years ago it was. But anyway, that's kind of like the interesting point there. Like here, it's like everybody knows your family.
Sure.
If you're from here, so that I think keeps honest people honest.
Yeah.
And so more so than up there, I couldn't tell you anything about anybody. Like no one that I went to high school with actually went there all 12 years. You know, maybe half of my graduating class actually went to that school.
Oh, wow.
For most of the time. Like I went there for high school only.
Okay.
And by the time I graduated, I was like pretty well known.
Okay.
In 4 years at a school, just doing one sport.
Sure.
But it was just kind of an interesting thing too. Just so many kids coming in all the time, and the school just exploded. At least in the suburbs of Columbus. I mean, they're just constantly growing.
It's constantly growing.
I think it's just a little different game. But then you got, people come and go so quickly, and then they can,
So have you gone back for your 10-year reunion?
I skipped the 10-year. I think, what was it?
Yeah, I haven't
my
gone.
15 would have been like last year.
Okay.
Yeah, my 20 is in 26.
Okay.
So maybe go back for that one.
Okay.
I don't know. Trying to wait, you want to show up. You want to look
right. I get that. Yeah.
No, I think, I'm trying to think what it was. Didn't care about the 10-year at all. We went to my wife's.
Didn't seem like enough time, did it?
Yeah, it was. So we went to my wife. She graduated the year after me, so we went to her 10-year, which I knew a lot of those kids, so that was cool. And then, 15, I was living down here. It was 2021, so people still weren't doing stuff that year. So I don't even think I even saw anything about that. But, 20, 20 is probably worth it. Plus, we'll all be like,
that's enough time. You see people, just how the things have changed, and that's, it's a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
Having kids, marriages, divorces,
second,
good,
third,
bad,
fourth
ugly.
careers. Unfortunately for me, man, a lot of the dudes I hung out with have all friggin' died. So
really,
it's one of those things too, where it's like, of the crew that I ran with a lot right after I graduated, there were 5 of us, and there's only 3 of us left still.
Oh, wow,
and that's kind of a wild thing and kind of weird. 2 out of 5. See ya.
Going back to what we said earlier about doing something meaningful.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, because you've got that finite amount of time, and I'll tell the story too. Like speaking of that, my dad passed away just over 2 years ago, January of 21, and when something like that happens, it gives you it's I don't know. My heart goes out to anyone that's ever. I mean, we've all experienced that. It's at some point either have or going to. It nothing prepares you for that. Nothing prepares you for that at all. There's no sort of training. There's nothing you can watch. No, it's when it happens, you just find a way to get through it, prayer. And thankfully, I've been surrounded by some really amazing people. My mother, she's still there in Winterville. I've had an amazing support system at the school I work at. And so it's just one of those things that you really realize, you got that finite amount of time. And do something good with that time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that makes it, it goes back to your, the Gary Vee thing of, as your 40 to 70K a year job, what you like doing, is that making you a happier person every day or every night as, the $300,000 job where you want to blow your head off every day?
Right. I mean, he's got that video. I've seen him where, he's talking about Mondays,
do you dread them or do you get excited?
Right, because it's like, if you woke up Monday morning dreading what you're about to do, you're doing something wrong.
Yep.
It shouldn't just be living to the weekend.
Exactly.
So you're working this many hours.
All you care about is what time you're leaving.
Right.
Every night. Yeah.
You're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on the Gary Vee drug, hard and heavy, man, in 2018, 2019, when I was figuring out whether I wanted to keep doing what I was doing or not. And I was like that. I would go, even on days I didn't work, when I would go down the street that I would have to turn off of to go to the work, the street that work was on.
Sure.
If I was just passing that turn in, I would get that pit in your stomach
right.
feeling of the anxiety of just driving by that street. I was what am I doing? Okay. I want to kill myself. I hate this. This is terrible.
Yeah, this is not it. It
was every Monday was horrible, and every Friday was yes, we made it. And now it's weekends are I don't know. And Sunday night I can't sleep. Last night again, I was up till 2:30, just laying there excited about I had all this crap I had to get done today, and then I can't freaking wake up because I'm
right.
Then I come out of the gate on Monday and I'm behind 2 hours. Dang. So anyway, it's funny. It's good stuff. But,
people like that, Gary Vee. I mean, they've been able to touch on to something that's different. Yeah.
So little short story. I quit my job, cashing my retirement, and was doing garage sailing and stuff, and found Gary Vee shoes at the thrift store.
Wow.
So I bought them to flip them and made a little Instagram story about it. And dude actually reshared my IG story.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then 3 weeks later, I met him at an event, and I was we did the little pay a little extra, little private meet and greet, autographing a picture thing,
right.
whatever. Because at this point I had just quit my job because I started thinking about it the ways that he was saying. And then I hadn't quite made everything together.
It takes courage.
Yeah, so like Additive America wasn't signed and official until like August, but from June I was like unemployed in anticipation of putting it all together. So it was like on the ceiling type. And so I had like got those shoes, put it up on the IG. He reshared it. I like woke up on a Saturday, my page was exploding. I was like, geez, my phone will not shut up. And I looked over and it was like, I was getting a bazillion likes because he had shared it on his stories. People were coming over and bought it. So it was really cool. And then we went.
That's awesome.
Saw him like speaking at an
great
event.
claim to fame there. Yeah, that's cool.
So we saw him at like a thing, and then like went to like this like brewery afterwards for the meet and greet, and walked up and was like, dude, I don't know if you remember this or not, but like I quit my job like 5 weeks ago to start a business, cash out my retirement. I'm like living off my retirement money, which I'm only 31 at the time. So it wasn't that much. And I was like, dude, I'm doing this whole thing. And I was like, just a couple weeks ago, you probably don't remember, but I posted that I found the Gary Vee shoes at the thrift store and I was flipping them and you reshared. And he was like, dude, I do remember that. He was like, that was really awesome. He's like, you were like one of the first people I've seen that was like doing the garage sailing thing and garage sale literal Gary Vee shoes. Like, it was kind of funny.
Yeah, look, oh man, he's the real deal. I mean, like, I've seen this one video where he's just like telling just a regular guy, like, look, go on eBay, type in, I remember this one very specific one, salt and pepper shakers.
Yes.
People that collect these, go to sort, filter, sold items or whatever, and like, here you go.
Yeah.
Like anything can be flipped.
Anything.
The
freaking price guides in your
like
pocket,
anything can be flicked. Like that's, and there's this another cool video I've seen him do with like supporting like a lemonade stand.
Yep.
With like kids. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic.
It always stops for him,
yeah. Supporting these kids with 7, 8, 9 years old, however old they are, with that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yep.
Oh man, it's fantastic. I mean,
he's good stuff.
And he's not too cool to still be doing garage sales.
I love that. Yeah.
Like I've seen one he bought like, I forgot how much it was, like Hot Wheel cars. Yeah. Hot Wheels. And then flip those.
Mm-hmm. I'm serious. So we lived like the whole summer before we moved down here. Me and my wife would wake up like every Thursday. We'd rush the kids to school, like if they were still in. And then in the summer, we'd just be like, get in the car. And we would pull, I had like a huge gun safe. I was like big into firearms, like major big. And we'd run it down. We'd wake up as early as we can, run out of the safe, pop it open, grab like $400 or $500 cash out of that sucker, and just start rolling around, hit all the rich neighborhoods, and just clean up. I mean, but again, you're going around suburbs of affluent suburbs and nice home probably $800,000 homes now with the inflation stuff. They're like $400 to $600 at the time. I mean, some kid will sell you a daggone American Girl doll for $5 and be tickled, and you're like, these are 80 bones all day. Like, but it was great. And you'd be like, look at the parents, you're like, your kid's like out here selling American Girl dolls, and they're like, it's fine. I go, okay, like sure, okay. Just buying video games, and dude, like one of my greatest favorite things to do ever is buying Game Boys with the game in them. And they'll sell you the Game Boy for they'll be like, screen doesn't work, $5, and you flip it over and you pull the game out and it's freaking Pokemon. You're like, the Pokemon game that's in the Game Boy is worth $50, bro. Like,
oh man,
it's crazy. Anyway,
that's awesome. I've also the hustle and everything about that.
It's so much fun. So we were doing it with the kids. And
that can get addicting really fast.
It was, dude. We got like
make some sales. Oh yeah.
I've got like 40 totes that have like letter combinations on the outside, and then inside them are like items and bags that are detailed out with so it's like the S tote and S1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that's a little code we put in all the eBay listings so you can find things. You're not like, oh my God, where the hell is that jersey at? It's just like, oh, it's S22. It's in the S tote.
So going back to what we were talking about with wrestling, I'm sure there's like plenty of things like with wrestling that can be flipped.
Old T-shirts.
Oh, okay. Really?
Old wrestling T-shirts are actually like any old vintage T-shirt that's like an old band tee, things like that.
So let me ask you this question. I'm glad you brought that up. So I've seen some kids wear like a Nirvana shirt.
Yeah.
I'm like,
a lot of them are repros.
Do you know who that was? I've heard a couple of them say, well, that was just like a brand or something. Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, it's wild.
Is that so? They're just wearing it, I guess, as like a brand or just like it's just a graphic.
It was like a lot of those like, I don't know if Nirvana's one of them, but a lot of those types sold off, and then like they sold their stuff, and so people are just using it and just mass producing stuff like Led Zeppelin. There's reproduction T-shirts.
That's all it is.
Like crazy, but the original stuff, Like if you can find original band tees from like 96 and earlier,
sure.
Easy money. Single stitch is what you're looking for on the sleeve. So
Okay.
like see how this has like 2 stitches? It's a double stitch shirt. So like after the t-shirts used to just have 1 stitch line on the sleeves, and that's called a single stitch tee. And in general, those were the made in USA t-shirts. So it was like 1994 to 96 before NAFTA.
I did not know that.
Earlier
Wow, okay.
are single stitch t-shirts. There's a whole sub-society of hipsters that will not wear anything unless it's single stitch.
Really?
And so you can just find like some BS Hanes color t-shirt, but it's single stitch and it's not all faded out and disgusting. Like some dude had it and put it in a drawer and never wore it and then died, and it got donated to the thrift store.
So I guess at that point, all the manufacturing went overseas, the textiles.
Yeah, and they pushed everything out, and that's what killed like a lot of the cotton and the textiles.
Yep.
And so overseas, they do the double stitch. And so that's how you can tell like a single stitch tee is generally pre-94.
NAFTA, yeah.
Yep, and they're huge valuable. There's like just a plain t-shirt is worth $15 to $25.
Wow.
Just because it's a single stitch.
Just a single. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a whole
That's really
hustle.
interesting.
So and what's cool is you can like in a thrift. Now there's some like modern companies now that do a single stitch, but you can just tell the difference. Like
sure.
It's too soft. But like you can we would go to thrift stores and just looking at the sleeves.
Wow.
And we're just looking for a single stitch. And usually if you find one, there's like 2 or 3 other ones nearby.
And that's your money right there.
And then boom, you're out of there. Like if you can find like a miscellaneous band t-shirt that's somewhat well known, single stitch, $80 easy. But if it's like Nirvana, Blink-182, any band that has any following whatsoever, $150 to $500. I mean, who knows?
Just for a t-shirt. Holy cow!
Like if you can find like, I found like this old Shania Twain graphic tee, and it was not even a single stitch; it was a double stitch, but it was like from her first tour, and the person like never wore it and never dried it, like it was still pristine.
Wow!
And I think I picked it up for like $2.99 at a thrift store, sold it for like $65, and it wasn't even a single stitch; it was just like a really clean, original, like concert tee.
I had no idea. Wow!
It's a whole subculture.
Yeah, that's news to me.
I was finding like old Jordans that are all busted, and like now everybody knows like pretty much a Jordan in any condition can be worth something to somebody. Cause
any condition, gotcha. Because it's Jordan.
Yeah, and people will clean it up and then resell, or people are making custom shoes and they just need the midsoles, they just need the tongues.
That's it.
And they're creating another shoe, a hybrid shoe with a bunch.
Did
of
you ever have any of the pump shoes?
Dude, so this is freaking hilarious.
That was the first thing I thought of my head.
I had a pair when I was growing up, and then I had found a pair at a thrift store.
Okay.
And they were my size. I bought them for like $6.50, $6.44, like sub $10. But one of the pumps was blown out, so one pump worked and one pump didn't. But they fit me. They were my size, and they were like patent white, so like shiny white with like.
How far back are we going in time here with that?
So I found these in Ohio in summer of 2019.
Gotcha.
And so I bought them for like $6 or $7. Kind of had them around, and then I like finally wore them for a little bit, and then I got down here and I bought up all these other shoes, and I was like, I don't really need those ones anymore. So like I put a listing on eBay, and I was like, I don't know, like they were going for like $80-$90 at the time. I put $145 on mine, put them in a box, put S22 on them, and put them in a box. And like this was like 2020, like during COVID I did that.
Oh wow.
And like 2 months ago they sold. Like I just woke up, it was like ding ding ding, sold $145 plus shipping. I was like, let's go.
That's fantastic.
So it was like $6 3 years ago, $145.
Anything can be flipped, man.
Anything.
Were you ever into, like, speaking of the 90s and like Nirvana or whatever, were you ever into any of that music?
I like Red Hot Chili Peppers, but no, I was a little too young for those.
Gotcha.
Like, grunge bands, if you would call them that.
Yeah.
Of the 90s.
Ah, man, Pearl Jam, always been my favorite.
Yeah.
Always. Well, travel anywhere to see those.
Yeah.
To see them. In fact, funny story. I went to London. So when I say I'll travel anywhere to see them. My one and only trip overseas was London a few summers back, and was to see Pearl Jam, and it was just an excuse to see them, and was an excuse to visit, the city of London and visit England. But anyway, got there and flew out of RDU to back up. I drove up to Washington D.C. to see U2.
Oh, nice.
So I love concerts. Saw U2 play at D.C., and I flew the next day to D.C. to New York and to JFK, and then New York to London. And then when I got to London, it hit me like, I'm a little ways away from home. That was a good 5 to 6 hour flight in 5 hours as far as time, ahead of time. And, well, the next night was supposed to be when Pearl Jam was playing. And before I get to that, when I got to London, I hadn't really planned a whole lot. It was just myself. I took a backpack with some clothes. That's it. Just one backpack. That is it. And we're staying in a hostel. And if you've never done that, it's the best comparison I can give you is a dorm.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Get to my hostel midnight local time and got the key. Went upstairs, and the first floor was actually a pub, a bar.
Oh, beautiful.
Right. Go up to upstairs, second floor. Walk into the room, and there's 10 beds in the room. It's so think military a little bit too. So it's bunk beds, and my bed was a top bunk. I felt bad about this. It's midnight local time. I'm climbing up, and there's somebody sleeping in the bottom bunk. I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah. And so I just pass out. Well, the next night is when Pearl Jam was supposed to play, and I was staying in London the rest of the week. Well, I'm outside the O2 Arena. It's about 2 hours before the gates open or whatever. And if you know anything about Pearl Jam, there are posters. They make a poster. Well, they have an artist that makes a poster for every show. Mm-hmm. You're talking about something that can be flipped. Oh yeah, my goodness. These concert posters are insane when it comes to flipping those as far as the amount of money they're trying to make. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I got my poster, but then my phone blew up and everybody's phone around me started like just getting notifications that the show was canceled.
No way.
Oh, yeah. Eddie, the lead singer, was sick and couldn't talk, so they had to cancel the show. I just flew how many miles?
What am I going to do
3,000 miles to get to London to see my favorite band. And but I was like, but I made the best of it. You know, I was in London the rest of the week, and that was a cool experience.
Yeah, that sucks, though.
Yeah, that part was bad.
What was that concert poster going for? Pretty well.
Well, it depends.
Did it do well because it was canceled?
Yeah, some. I don't know what that one is. The market for that one is now, but I know it really depends. Like I went to see them back in September in St. Louis, couldn't get it.
Really?
Could not get it. Like it was insane. And then before the gates had even opened, the poster was on eBay, going for $150, $200 easy, easy, and the retail pricing $30, $35.
Nice.
And so you're gonna make at least $100 profit.
Have you seen the Widespread Panic?
I know that band.
So did you ever go to Mad Hatter to eat?
Not yet.
Oh, well, it's gone.
Well, it's gone
so
now.
You don't have to
Okay.
worry about it. But the whole entire wall on the inside was Widespread Panic concert posters, and they were like professionally framed by the right angle.
Oh wow!
They're all Brad Elmore's. He's got like a whole ridiculous collection of them. So
that's awesome.
Let's check that out.
Okay, that is cool.
Yeah, I mean they were sweet. I mean I don't know what they're worth. I'm sure they're.
I don't have any autographs.
I'm sure it's like amazing. It's a whole estate worth of things.
Wow.
But he has a ton. It was the whole wall. It would basically be like taking like one of these major walls and doing like the whole thing. Wow. I mean, it was a ton of stuff. So very cool stuff.
Cool.
What you got? What's the official event again coming up in April? Plug that for me one more time.
So that's the Lenoir County Historical Association Southern Brunch. That's be Sunday, April 16th. And we'll be posting on our Facebook page soon with more information about as far as the time, what you can expect, and all that.
Cool. Yeah. Sweet. Check it out. Anything else you want to throw in here?
No, I appreciate it. Go Wood Ducks. We're excited about the baseball season coming up very soon. I've already put in my schedule availability as far as that. Nice. Couldn't be more excited about that coming up.
Yeah, pretty sweet. You get paid to stand there and watch the games. Man. You just got to go pull the tarp every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure nobody's in the wrong seat. Yeah. Not too bad.
Yeah.
Always going to make sure I always watch, every year I do this, watch Bull Durham.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To get ready.
Bull Durham, and it's my favorite baseball movie.
Yeah.
Durham Bulls. So.
I like it. I like Angels in the Outfield.
Okay. So many good sports, like classic sports movies in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And Mighty Ducks. I mean, he killed it with that. Sweet. Angels in the Outfield. Little Big League. Is that right? Little Big League. Little Giants.
Little Giants is who I was thinking of. Sandlot as well.
Yeah, Oh, gosh, Sandlot.
How could you forget?
League of Their Own. So many good
Field
ones.
of Dreams in the 90s? Or late 80s?
89, 90. One of the two.
Right there on the line, though.
Yeah.
In the era.
Right there. Perfect.
Good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And WWE.
Exactly. Definitely can't beat it.
WWF.
Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was when I was no longer allowed to watch, but I'm
I
catching
can
up
understand
now.
why.
Yeah. I can't believe why my parents didn't want me to be like walking around doing this. You know what I mean? What's so wrong? You don't want your 9-year-old doing the chop.
Oh, man.
Too funny.
So
I'm telling you, you got to check
memories
that
with
show out. A&E, you owe me money because I've talked about that stuff on at least like 6 episodes.
Right,
now,
they should. They should become a sponsor of the show.
Hilarious. They should. We'll have to hit him up.
Yeah.
I'll probably hit up Vince McMahon. I met him one time
Okay.
working at a hotel in Columbus. We had to have a cook stay late because he had requested his steak to be cooked fresh when he made it back to his room, which was after 12, which was usually when everyone would go home for that. We worked the bar. We were there till 2:30. We made a killing when WWE came to town.
Wow.
Those dudes would come down and just blow a wad in the bar and stuff.
I'm sure.
And it was really, really sweet. But the in-room service waitress was complaining about it, having to stay late. I said, just go, man. I got it.
Right.
Could run up to the
I'll take
20th
care of
floor.
it,
It's
yeah.
no big deal. And, run up, dropped off his food. Wasn't probably what he was hoping would be dropping off his food.
Right.
I don't know his type, but he didn't smile real big when he saw me.
Sure.
But it was really cool, man. You know, you just like go in, push a tray in for a guy. But he was extremely kind. Like one of the nicest people that I'd ever met in that setting.
Awesome.
First would be Randy Couture.
Okay.
Second would be Rick Springfield.
Okay.
Third, Slash. And fourth, Vince McMahon. 4 nicest people.
Slash doesn't surprise me.
Extremely kind.
Yeah. He's
And
always giving off that vibe.
the coolest thing was he was there when we were like occupancy like 4%. So the hotel was dead as hell. And I'm like coming, I'm like 21, 22. So I'm all hungover and shit. And I'm waking up. It's like 4 o'clock and I'm running late and I punch in and I walk out around the corner from punching in. And I'm like, hotel's dead today, like 4% occupancy. Like, what am I going to make? Like $6?
Right.
Like, I can go in there and literally be asleep. And I come around the corner and I was like, and then like we're walking around the atrium and on the other side is like my manager and his boss, like one of the main dudes.
Wow.
And we were never supposed to like stop and talk, ignore people, just
Keep on going.
let them be. And I was like, and I like looked over and I saw them and I was like, Slash, what's up, dude? It's the craziest thing. I can't, like, is it really you? Because, like, I just walked in here like this, dude. I'm so hungover from last night.
Was the hat on and everything?
Dude, full gig.
Full everything.
Full gig. I was like,
Oh,
get
man.
the hell. And it was just him and his manager sitting there having a conversation. We were like, why are you here? And he's like, you don't even have a show. And he was like, well, we were driving and we had to do a layover somewhere. And it was here, Des Moines, Iowa. And we were like, so why'd you pick here? And he goes, have you ever been to Des Moines? Like, why'd you pick Columbus, Ohio? And he's
Right.
like, well, the alternative was Des Moines. And we were like,
Okay. Well, glad you're here.
yeah. And it was great. One of the coolest guys.
Slash. That's
The very, very nicest, though, like Rick Springfield. You're a server.
right.
Ridiculously over the top kind.
Wow.
Like out of his way kind.
Cool.
Very cool
That's
dude.
good to hear. Awesome.
So anywho, shameless plug for those two guys.
Sure.
Randy
yeah.
Couture, really funny, and he told his dude that he was with told me a really ridiculously hilarious joke that I can't share online, but it was really funny.
Oh man, me Slash. Oh gosh.
Yeah, and Slash,
Guns
so-
N' Roses. Man,
Anywho,
it's awesome.
Good time. Ray Lewis was another cool dude too.
Really?
Yeah, and Ray Lewis is not 6 foot tall.
How tall was he?
I'm 5'8", and I'm just telling you, he might be 5'8".
Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis is not 6 foot. You look him up; it says 6 foot or 6'1".
Right.
I'm 5'8". And
As big as he is.
He might be a
Oh.
little taller than me, but not much. And
Not
I'm
much.
maybe 5'8". Like my brother would laugh and be like 5'7" and 3/4. So,
Yeah. The Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
The Ray Lewis.
yeah,
Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that.
should have been a Brown, but I
Gotcha.
digress. It's another guy that just can't like.
There's another story in an NFL
It's a whole other
franchise.
day. Oh. The dude that peed on his grave should have not gotten in trouble for it though.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about? The owner of the Ravens.
Who's their quarterback now? Browns. Are you still a fan?
Oh yeah. We got Deshaun Watson.
Oh, gotcha. That's good luck with that one.
Well, we're good at picking bad quarterbacks. So what else is new?
Didn't you have what's his name out of Oklahoma?
Yeah, we did Baker.
Baker.
Before he went to Carolina, and then
You know, he was recruited before he came to Oklahoma. He was actually recruited by Lincoln Riley.
yeah,
for ECU.
Yep.
So he almost, I guess you could say, almost came here.
Could've,
But yeah.
That'd have been cool because then he wouldn't have planted the OU flag at the shoe. We got over it, though. It was fine when he was a Brownie.
Love
the attitude.
Pretty cool stunt.
Oh, totally.
I mean, that's one of those things that makes sports fun. You know, like they should be allowed to do those things. Those rivalries, that intensity.
I love a good antagonist.
That's what makes sports fun and enjoyable to watch. Like, I want to be entertained.
Yeah, give me a bad guy.
Yeah, right.
Give
Every
me a bad guy.
great story like that has a villain. And he fit that perfectly.
Yep.
And what was his name out of Texas A&M?
Oh, Johnny Manziel.
Johnny
we had him
Manziel.
too, yeah.
Oh, did you?
The Browns did, yeah.
Oh,
so I remember
man.
watching that draft, and the Browns took, I think, I hope I don't screw this up. I think they took Denzel Ward with like the third pick. And I was like, no, you idiots.
Right.
We want Johnny football. Because
No,
at that point, I
Johnny.
was like, I don't even care. Just give me,
Sure.
I'm a Browns fan. Give me the excitement. I don't
You're right.
care.
Need
There's a
something
million
here.
ways we can miss the playoffs every year. Hell, give me Johnny football.
I might as well be entertained while I'm doing it.
Yes, and then they took him like later in the first, because like I was like, idiots, you idiots,
Man.
and then
But
they took him later, and I
you
was
got
like,
spared.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
spared on that one.
But,
oh gosh.
Yeah, at least we got Ward out of it, but he was a
Right.
Buckeye too, so it worked out.
True.
But anyway, yeah, we could go on for days. But anyway, that was episode 44 of the Kickin' It With podcast. My name is Zac Holcomb. This is Chadwick Stokes. Thanks for joining me, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Super
Thank
fun.
you. Appreciate it.
For sure. See y'all later. We'll catch you at Wood Ducks games. Go to them.
Absolutely.